Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we bring you news related to America's military. I'm Jenna Browder. Well, a recently released Pentagon report warns that domestic extremism groups pose a serious threat to the military, and that has the Defense Secretary calling for a stand down. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips joins us with more. Eric?
Jenna, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin calls this a major readiness issue. At this point, the number of extremists in the military, most of them espousing white supremacist ideologies, is unknown. But Austin said recently even a small number could have a major impact. Here's what's so concerning. Domestic terrorist groups are reportedly seeking to actively recruit military members or joining the military themselves to gain combat experience. The problem became really evident after the January 6th Capitol siege, when a number of military members and military veterans were found to be present.
You know, it concerns me to think that anyone wearing the uniform of a soldier or a sailor, an airman, marine, or guardian, or Coast Guardsman would espouse these sorts of beliefs, let alone act on them. But they do. We have serious commitments around the world, and people depend on us. So we can't afford actions and behavior that are at odds with our values and that undermine good order and discipline, that harm or harass and otherwise violate the oath that we share.
Austin directed all commanders and supervisors at every level to conduct a one-day stand-down, that is, a pause in normal business, so that they can, by early April, discuss extremism in the military ranks. Jenna.
All right, Eric Phillips, thank you very much. And joining us now with more on the military and extremism, Colonel Oliver North. Welcome, Colonel North. First, just give us your take on concerns over extremism in the U.S. military.
Well, Jenna, obviously there are issues, and this is not the first time we've talked about loyalty in our military. Back in World War II, young guys coming into the military, when they were drafted, were asked, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party or part of a communist group? And then it was broadened to include Nazis. And that idea of a loyalty oath has been with us for a long time. My concern is, we in the military, we've got an expression that we use, particularly when you're about to go into a very dangerous situation. The guy next to you says, I have your back. Now, those four words aren't some kind of sentiment. It's a pledge. It's like the modern version of that pledge, our honor, our sacred honor, and our lives and fortunes, going all the way back to the Declaration of Independence. It's loyalty up and loyalty down. It's not a matter of trying to hope that somebody at the top of the pyramid is going to back you up. It's expected. And my concern is that an awful lot of this sounds like a witch hunt. And by that, I mean, it's not something about, well, you've been seen in a Ku Klux Klan garb. It's a guy who might have gotten a tattoo or some kind of pattern, a St. George cross, for example, which is being used by bad people to do bad things. None of us want to have those who are not loyal to our country and to the oath that we took to one another and our country and to protect and serve the Constitution. None of us want people in our military who can't do that, who won't do that. My question is, if those of us who believe in, for example, traditional marriage, or don't want to be serving with people who are going to make you less ready, like, for example, someone who's at a sex change operation can't be deployable, are you still allowed to say things like that in our military? Or is that the kind of thing we're now going to keep banned as part of this witch hunt? That's my concern.
Yeah, it's a good question. What are your thoughts on Defense Secretary Austin's comments that you heard there?
Well, look, it sounds like the right kind of thing. The problem is when you start going after someone's politics or, for example, their moral behavior. For example, I'll give you the issue. Transgender personnel can't serve overseas. They can't go into combat. They can't be deployed. And yet this administration is going to make that mandatory. You can come in the military to have a sex change operation. And even though you're not deployable, it doesn't contribute a thing. So if you stand up and say that, or a chaplain says something about the way people behave in marriage, out of the Bible. Is that going to be banned? Is that the kind of thing that's going to be deemed to be disloyal? And so my concern is, I think it's wonderful to make sure that we've got loyalty in the ranks. Form 86, standard form for security clearance, used to be 4 pages long. It's now over 100 pages long. And they want to know absolutely everything about you to get a security clearance. I look at those kinds of things and I say, okay, that's good. But if a kid got a tattoo that somebody now deems to be the wrong kind of thing, are we going to throw them out of the military? I hope not.
Colonel North, so what's the solution here? Is there a better answer than tamping down on what the culture is labeling as extreme?
Well, look, just because I'm a white person does not mean I'm a racist. According to the Washington Compost, the newest newspaper to where I'm sitting right here in my office in Dulles, Virginia, according to them, just because I'm white, I'm a racist. That's just baloney. I mean, the bottom line of what we are as a culture isn't necessarily being defined anymore by professors on college campuses that won't let conservatives go out and speak. They're not necessarily going to be defined by somebody getting a tattoo that somebody now deems to be the wrong kind of tattoo to have when you join the military. Remember, this is an all-volunteer force. I mean, we can't just draft people off the streets and send them into the armed forces anymore. Since 1973, it's been an all-volunteer force. You really want to alienate everybody by, well, let's see, what's your real view on this particular issue? I don't think that a political litmus test is what we want in our military.
Yeah. Oliver North, Colonel North, we have to ask you and congratulate you on your new book. What can you tell us about it?
In fact, this is interviews with 500, actually more than 500 veterans of our armed forces. And these are guys that we've served with, and we're asking them those same kinds of questions. I mean, what is it that makes you now ask the question, veterans lament, is this the America our heroes fought for? I mean, the bottom line of this book is the warning call that I just sounded right now. The troops that I served with and that David and I interviewed for this book, those kinds of young Americans know the meaning of those words, I've got your back. And they're asking, can our current administration, even though this book was written before Biden came to office, the views reflected in this book are the kinds of things we're talking about right now in this broadcast with you, Jenna.
Yeah, extremely relevant. And just real quickly for our viewers, where can they find your book? How can they get a hold of it?
Well, Amazon hasn't dropped it yet. My publishing company, Fidelis Publishing is out there to help people who otherwise couldn't get published somewhere else, but you can still get it at Amazon.
All right, Colonel Oliver North, it's always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jenna. Great to be with you. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. And coming up, following the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, new concerns and details on National Guard presence in the nation's capital.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the Sleep Doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No spur falls, man.
Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back. The FBI found a credible threat of an armed extremist group planning to take over the U.S. Capitol just a couple of months after the January 6th attack. The threat coming as lawmakers investigate the events surrounding that January 6th attack. George Thomas has the story.
After the security failures on January 6th, authorities are taking threats of another Capitol breach seriously. This new one reportedly from a militia group inspired by a conspiracy theory predicting that former President Trump would return to power on March 4th, the day U.S. presidents used to be inaugurated on before 1933. The intel alert describing a plot by violent extremists to take control of the U.S. Capitol and remove Democratic lawmakers.
We issued a bulletin last night, co-authored with the FBI, about extremists discussing March 4th and March 6th.
House Democrats concerned about safety canceled today's session. The Senate plans to convene at noon. U.S. Capitol Police taking the intelligence seriously.
We have enhanced our security posture. We've taken immediate steps to let the National Guard as well as our workforce know what to expect.
One Republican lawmaker urging the former president to send a message to his supporters.
President Trump has a responsibility to tell them to stand down. This threat is credible and it's real.
The threat coming as lawmakers are investigating the January 6th Capitol attack. Democrats wanting to know why it took the Pentagon more than 3 hours to deploy the National Guard after getting frantic requests from Capitol Hill police. D.C. National Guard Chief William Walker told senators that top Army leaders delayed over concerns about the image of guardsmen surrounding the Capitol.
The Army senior leaders did not think that it looked good, it would be a good optic. They further stated that it could incite the crowd. I was frustrated. I was just as stunned as everybody else on the call.
And yet, a few months before the Capitol attack, during protests after George Floyd's murder, General Walker testified that optics weren't an issue in deploying D.C.'s National Guard.
Was the issue of optics ever brought up by Army leadership when the D.C. National Guard was deployed during the summer of 2020?
It was never discussed.
26,000 Guard members were initially deployed after the Capitol attack. Some 5,200 troops now remain in Washington. George Thomas, CBN News.
All right, thank you, George. And during the inauguration, more than 25,000 National Guard members were here in Washington to help with security. Thousands went home after that, but thousands also stayed. Military.com reports the Guard was asked to support requests from the U.S. Secret Service and federal law enforcement. It also reported that any Guard members who stayed past the original 31-day mobilization order would be on a volunteer basis with modified orders, according to a spokesman with the Guard Bureau. Hope Sachs with Military.com joins us now for more. Hope, welcome. Good to have you with us. With these latest concerns of the FBI, could some of the troops be in Washington even longer?
Absolutely. In fact, as I'm coming on, lawmakers are asking that the Guard deployment be extended another 60 days. So that puts us, originally we were thinking that some Guard presence, probably about 5,000 troops, was going to stay till mid-March. That puts us now in the April timeframe and possibly moving forward. And remember that this deployment began back in January, and troops were already in place as early as December. So this is a significant operation.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it here in Washington walking around. There's just a huge increased presence of law enforcement and security. But we also know there was talk around the time of the inauguration of some soldiers possibly having some extreme views. How has that played out over the last couple of months with the Defense Secretary's message on extremism?
Exactly. So I think the big takeaway is that the military just doesn't have the tools that it needs. And in fact, there's new guidance out in the last few days about ways forward on that. And looking at tattoos, for example, I know that was talked about in a previous segment, about working with the FBI because they've been tracking extremism a lot more carefully and closely for a very long time. And now that this is a kind of forefront issue, kind of looking at the tools that are available and coming up with some hard and fast processes to do that. I believe 12 National Guard members were sent home ahead of the inauguration. Now, we weren't told exactly why, whether it was because of views that they had expressed on social media or tattoos or activities that they had been involved in, just that the Guard was not taking any chances and, again, not wanting any sort of conflict from these troops' primary duty, which is to keep Americans safe and to work security at the Capitol.
Yeah, military.com also reported recently the commander of the District of Columbia National Guard testified before Congress that unusual restrictions by Pentagon leaders delayed him from deploying additional Guard members to halt the January 6th attack by hours. What can you tell us about that, Hope?
So there are a lot of conflicting accounts here, and sparks were certainly flying on Capitol Hill. First, we had the DC Capitol Police that had some very, very strong things to say about the delays in the military presence. Now, remember, on January 6th, as this rally turned into a riot and a siege on the Capitol, there were some hundreds of National Guard troops that were not far away, and they were working things like traffic control. And so it was very much a communications issue, getting those troops that were already in place and already preparing for inauguration duties to the Capitol to shore up an overwhelmed police force. And so in the last several days, we've had hearings from the DC Guard, as you said, and the military, in saying that it was the Pentagon that was holding up the chain of command. Now, the two folks who are sort of the scapegoats here, Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller and Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy, they're not around anymore. They've moved on since the inauguration. So I think we need to hear their side too, but clearly communication issues that need to be ironed out, probably fairly quickly.
Just a few seconds left in this segment, but with the latest threat discovered by the FBI, the current concerns about extremism and what our military is tasked to do, what do you see going forward between all of the politics and our military service?
I think it's very clear. I mean, we have 2,500 troops in Iraq, 2,500 troops in Afghanistan, and 5,000 in the nation's capital. There's such an emphasis on domestic issues in the last year and several months. Clearly, civilian-military relations, these communication channels should not just be used in the case of an emergency. These things need to be worked out well in advance, and we can see sort of the negative impact when the channels get rusty and things get miscommunicated and there's not that good rapport between military and civilian organizations. So I think that's the major takeaway, and I'm sure there will be more as we learn more about the situation.
Yeah, we'll be watching for sure. All right, Hope, thanks, and stick around. When we come back, we'll ask Hope about the military's role in COVID vaccine distribution and a possible mandate for men and women of the military. Keep it here.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
The Pentagon is considering the idea of mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations for the military. Right now, it can't mandate them because they aren't FDA approved. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby told reporters that FDA approval could change things, but doesn't want to get ahead of the process. Military.com reporting, quote, despite the popular belief that the Pentagon can inject troops with anything at once, military leaders are unable to force service members to get the COVID vaccinations at this time because the shots are approved only under an emergency use authorization. And Hope Seck with Military.com joins us once again. Hope, a very interesting story here about a mandate on the vaccine for military. Is there a precedent for this?
Certainly, troops have been vaccinated with everything from anthrax to measles, mumps, rubella, standard vaccinations, and kind of far out ones for the places they deploy. This is really the first rare case that we've had one that's optional. And we are actually seeing an issue in that about 1/3 of troops are opting not to take the vaccine at this point when it's offered to them.
All right, that's very interesting. Well, you've been reporting on the findings of the Soldiers' View to getting the vaccine, kind of what you were just mentioning. Are they in line with the general population? What are you seeing and learning, Hope?
So service members definitely have more access to the vaccine than the average individual who in many states is still waiting their turn as people who are older or have medical conditions or frontline workers get their jab. So this is really the best set of data that we have. And it's interesting to see the military use kind of encouragement campaigns or to say, you know, if your unit or with the Navy, your ship gets vaccinated, then we can reduce restrictions if you get to 100%. So that's really the tack that they're taking right now.
Mm-hmm. And what about family members? Could they also be required to take the vaccine?
At this point, I don't believe family members are expected to be required to take the vaccine. They just are not under the control of the military the same way that uniformed service members are. Now, we reported that 53% of family members and veterans in a recent poll said that they would not take the vaccine, which I think probably indicates the influence of information on places like Facebook and even some conspiracies tied to the vaccine and what it might or might not do. So I expect to see more military information campaigns trying to target that.
Yeah, and real quickly, Hope, while the debate over the vaccine for the military goes on, troops are already, as we know, playing a vital role in distribution. Update us on that.
Absolutely. In addition to the, I believe, 26,000 National Guard troops that have already been deployed for COVID support, another 5,000 active duty troops have been sent out in these teams of about 100 or 200 to vaccination centers. And they're an available force because the military is already paying them. They're around and ready to do the country's missions. And so that's why we have, you know, active duty troops in places like the 101st Airborne being sent out to support vaccination distribution.
All right, Hope Seck with Military.com. We have to leave it there. Thank you again for your time and your updates on these very important stories. Thanks, Hope. And up next, getting to know your military. They can't fly without her. The cool and very important job of one woman serving in the Air Force. when On the Homefront returns.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
And finally, the story of one woman's role in the military and her cool job of helping pilots fly. Take a look.
People ask me all the time what it's like to be responsible for the safety of a pilot. And honestly, it's a little bit of pressure, but it helps keep me focused and makes me better at my job every day. My name is Staff Sergeant Anne-Marie Prezillo. I am the Aircrew Flight Equipment Technician on the F-22 demonstration team. I'm from the town of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I decided to join the Air Force in the spring of 2014. It is my job to prepare and inspect all of the equipment that the pilot may need during their demonstration. I work with a bunch of different equipment, such as the helmet, the oxygen mask, the harness, and the anti-G garment. When I'm not on the road with my team, I'm back at Langley Air Force Base doing what I do best, inspecting gear and preparing pilots for all of their daily flights. One of the coolest parts about being on the team is getting to see all of our fans' reactions and how excited everybody gets every time they show up to an air show.
Very cool, and that's all the time for today. Thanks for joining us.